We introduced ourselves in the lobbies and earlier, so we're just going to do that again real quick. My name's Kevin Kovac. I'm with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and we're assisting the Frederick Police Department with this case involving Chris Watts. And this is Tim Martinez, also an agent at CBI. Sir, if you just introduce yourself.
Dwayne Kessinger. I'm Nicole's father.
Dwayne, what's your birthday?
November 3rd, 1958.
And home address for you, sir?
8801 West 65th Avenue.
Let's see.
And that's Arvada, 8004.
And a cell phone or a home phone or where?
720-982-4547.
Thank you. And Nicole, can you just introduce yourself for the recording?
Nichol Kessinger. Do you need all the other stuff?
Yes, please.
I live at 12255 Claude Court, Unit 612, phone number 720-656-9605.
Claude Court, is that? I think we determined it was North Glen, right?
Yes.
You know your zip code?
80249.
Okay. Can you speak up just a little bit so the recorder, I know you're tired and you're stressed, and we won't be here any longer than we have to be. You've already had a conversation with people before. You came here on your own free will to talk to us. We picked you up at your request and brought you here. You can get up and leave at any time. You don't have to talk to us. If there's a question you don't want to answer, don't answer it. If you don't want to talk anymore, just tell me I want to leave. And I'm kind of in the way of the door, but you're not being interrogated as a criminal suspect. We're here to understand your relationship with Chris and what you know about Chris and his family, and events relating to Chris Watts. And do you know him as Chris or Christopher?
Either one.
Okay. So the phone number that you reached him on, can you tell me what that number was?
I think I deleted that out of my phone too. I just cut him out of my life. It's a 910 number. You guys have it.
Now we gave it to Mark yesterday.
Yeah, I probably have it, but just in case.
I don't have it.
If I recited it to you, would you know it?
Just the first three numbers.
Okay. But you know it as a 910 number?
Yes, that's what I do know. I mean, that's what
North Carolina or something.
Yeah, North Carolina. Okay. So let's just start with a timeline of your getting to know Chris, how you guys met, where you met, all those things. And let's just run. And I'm not going to ask you specific questions unless I think it's necessary. I'll let you just tell me your story. I think it's a little bit easier that way. So I just want to know how you met him, where you met him, how long you guys were dating, and those kind of things initially.
Okay. I think I met him sometime in June, probably early June. It might have been May. It was just talking at work. It was pretty casual. And he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. I was like, that's pretty cool. And started telling me about his kids.
That sounded like a sarcastic comment.
No, I thought it was kind of cute. I was like, oh, he's a dad. It was right around Father's Day too. So whenever that is in June.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm not good with holidays.
What if I told you that one of the most documented family tragedies in modern American history began not with a scream, not with a chase, not with a violent confrontation, but with a man standing calmly on his front lawn in the Colorado morning sun, talking to cameras and asking the world to help him find his missing wife and 2 little girls? What if I told you that as his neighbors gathered around him with tears on their faces, as investigators quietly began to take notes, as a nation held its breath and prayed for a mother and her daughters to come home, the man doing all of the talking already knew exactly where they were? What if I told you that the same man who looked into those cameras and said, quote, "This house is not complete without everybody here," had made sure it never would be again just hours before those words left his mouth? This is not a story about a man who looked dangerous. This is the story of a man described by everyone around him as quiet, gentle, and devoted. A man who played with his daughters in the backyard. A man who smiled in every family photo. A man whose pregnant wife called him her everything. And yet, every camera that captured him, every body cam, every security recording, every interrogation room monitor would ultimately tell a story that no one around him saw coming. Because the cameras never blink. They simply record. And what they recorded in the days surrounding August 13th, 2018 is something that investigators, psychologists, and people all around the world are still sitting with years later. This is the story of Chris Watts. The disappearance of Shanann Watts, her daughters Bella and Celeste, and their unborn son Nico. A story told not just in facts, but in silences, in contradictions, in the slow and precise way the truth eventually made its way to the surface. Stay with me, because nothing about this case is what it looks like at first glance. And the further we go, the more unsettled you're going to feel. Not because of what happened, but because of how normal everything looked while it was happening. Before we go any further, I need to say something directly to you. If you're the kind of person who cannot let a story go until every single question has been answered, if you're the kind of person who notices the details that other people miss, then Dark Trail Files was built specifically for you. We do not rush these stories. We do not skim the surface. We go deep. We go into the uncomfortable corners, and we stay there until the full picture comes into focus. Every episode on this channel is researched, verified, and told with the care that the victims deserve. If that is what you're looking for, hit subscribe right now. Turn on your notifications, because we are just getting started, and the trail we are about to follow together is one you will not want to miss a single step of. Now, let's go back to the beginning.
And kids, and then it was Father's Day shortly after that, so that's what I do now. And I was like, I thought it was cute. And then he's telling me about him. He's pretty excited about him. And then he mentioned that he did have a significant other. And then he told me that those two were in the process of a separation.
Did he mention the children's name or his significant other's name?
I didn't know his significant other's name for a while. And then I think he told me his kids' names pretty quick, but to be honest with you, on an exact date of when that happened, I don't know.
So in May and June, first of all, where do you work?
I work at Anadarko Petroleum Corporation. I'm contracted to Anadarko Petroleum Corporation.
Okay, and you work out of an office setting where?
In Platteville, Colorado.
Okay. And Chris also works out of that location, per se?
Yes. He's in the field, but he comes into the office with his team.
So you work, what is your job responsibility?
I do health, safety, and environment.
Okay, so you work in the office and you take care of health safety for Anadarko is an oil and gas company, right?
Yes.
So you're doing health safety in the office and Chris works in the field
Yes.
as a, what kind of job does he do?
He's an operator, so I don't know like all of his daily duties, but he's a field operator, so he works with like the oil wells.
So he goes out and does work on those, whatever
Yes.
that work might be, but he comes into the office frequent.
In the mornings, his team meets in the mornings. They're not all in there every day. Some days some of them are in there, some days other ones are in there, but in the mornings, typically from like 6:15 to probably 7, somewhere around there.
And is that where you met Chris?
Yes.
Okay. So can you just take us through kind of a little bit of the early part of how he courted you or you courted him? I don't know which one happened. How you guys got to know each other?
I guess we just started talking. He actually, so part of my job is to manage the gas monitors that we have. So Anadarko requires all of their field personnel to carry like gas monitor sensors for toxic gases, and it's my job to control the inventory, any issues, anything like that. And we were having some pretty serious like equipment issues, and we had numerous amounts of people coming in my office one day, and he happened to be one of them. And I'd seen him before, like they meet in the lunchroom, and that's where I go put my lunch in the fridge. So I'd seen him, but I didn't ever like talk to him. So that day we just started talking, and then every time I saw him in the hallway.
Christopher Lee Watts was born on May 16th, 1985, in Spring Lake, North Carolina. Shanann Catherine was born on January 10th, 1984, in Aberdeen, North Carolina. Two people from the same corner of the South who found each other through a Facebook friend request in 2010 and married on November 3rd, 2012. By the time they settled into their 5-bedroom home at 2825 Saratoga Trail in Frederick, Colorado, a quiet suburb about 40 miles north of Denver, they had built what looked from every visible angle like a life worth celebrating. Their daughter Bella Marie Watts was born December 17th, 2013. Their second daughter, Celeste Catherine Watts, known to everyone who loved her as Cece, was born July 17th, 2015. Bella was 4 at the time of her disappearance. Celeste was 3, and Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant with their third child, a son they had already named Nichol Watts. Chris worked as a field operator for Anadarko Petroleum, a stable role in the oil and gas industry. Shanann worked from home as a brand partner for a wellness company called Lavelle, promoting a product line called Thrive. She had built a significant social media following and used it to document her family openly and lovingly. Morning routines, birthday parties, girls' soccer games, quiet Colorado Saturdays where everything looked like it was supposed to. To her followers, she was warm, relatable, and full of life. She had been diagnosed with lupus, spoke openly about her health journey, and in one video described Chris as, quote, "the one for me." In June of 2018, just weeks before everything fell apart, she posted a Father's Day message telling him he was the reason she had been brave enough to agree to a third child. Chris appeared in those videos too, playing with the girls on the grass, smiling quietly at the camera, holding Celeste, helping Bella with her shoes. He was not the loudest presence, but he was there consistently and visibly part of the life Shanann documented for the world. There's something important about the way Shanann documented her family. She was not performing for strangers. It never felt that way to the people watching. She was genuinely enthusiastic about her life, genuinely proud of her daughters, and genuinely devoted to the idea that what she had built was worth sharing. She believed in her family. She wore that belief openly across thousands of posts and videos and live streams. The family had experienced financial difficulty earlier. They filed for bankruptcy in 2015, but by 2018, they appear to have found their footing. Chris's job was stable. Shanann's business was growing. A third child was on the way. Hold that image. Because the contrast between what was visible on those screens and what was actually happening beneath it is the very heart of this story. Because while Shanann was in North Carolina with the girls for 6 weeks in the summer of 2018, something had quietly begun at the house on Saratoga Trail. Something that would, within weeks, change everything. In June of 2018, while his wife and daughters were away in North Carolina, Chris Watts began a relationship with a woman named Nichol Kessinger. She was a co-worker in the oil and gas industry in Colorado. What began as conversation escalated quickly into something that became deeply emotionally involved within weeks. Watts told Kessinger that his marriage was essentially over. He told her he and Shanann had already decided to separate. He presented himself as a man moving on, available, free, and ready for something new. He never told her that his wife was pregnant. Think about what that concealment required. Not just a single lie, but a sustained architecture of deception. He and Kessinger exchanged messages through a phone app called Secret Calculator, a program designed to look like an ordinary calculator, but which concealed private messages, photos, and communications behind a passcode. They went on overnight trips together. By the time Shanann came home in August, the relationship had been building for nearly 2 months. He had reportedly told her he loved her. All of it hidden, all of it running in parallel. In letters and handwritten notes obtained and reported by the New York Post in April 2024, Watts allegedly described Shanann to a fellow inmate in deeply critical terms, calling her a, quote, control freak, and describing Kessinger as, quote, everything his wife was not. He reportedly also told the inmate that Kessinger was, quote, the death of him, a phrase carrying a weight he may not have fully reckoned with. But Kessinger has maintained consistently that she did not know the full truth of Chris Watts' life. She says she did not know Shanann was pregnant. She believed the marriage was truly over. If she is telling the truth, and investigators ultimately found no evidence to charge her with any crime, then what she was experiencing was not a relationship with a separated man. It was a performance, a completely constructed alternate reality, built and maintained simultaneously with the one his wife and daughters were living inside. Two worlds, running at the same time. Shanann came back to Frederick in early August 2018. She had sensed the distance growing in Chris and had spoken to friends about it. Worried, asking questions she could not quite bring herself to answer. Friends later recalled that she had been genuinely troubled. She had told people close to her that she was afraid the marriage was in serious trouble. She was not imagining it. She was reading something real. But she came home. She was 15 weeks pregnant. She had two little girls who loved their father. She came home and she tried. Shanann and Chris attended a couples retreat in late July and early August of 2018, intended to reconnect them. She posted about it with genuine hope. She believed in the possibility of repair. On the night of August 12, 2018, Shanann returned home from a business trip to Arizona. Her friend and colleague Nichol Kessinger dropped her off at 2825 Saratoga Trail at approximately 1:48 in the morning. A neighbor's security camera captured that moment. A woman arriving home, expecting to sleep, expecting morning, expecting tomorrow. Shanann walked through the front door. She went inside. That was the last time anyone outside that house would see Shanann Watts alive. What happened inside the Watts home in the hours after Shanann walked through that door is something that took months, multiple confessions, an extensive investigation to piece together. And even now, the complete picture of motive remains one of the most discussed and debated questions in this entire case. What we know from Chris Watts's own eventual and detailed confession, given to investigators in February of 2019, is this. At some point in those pre-dawn hours, Chris Watts told Shanann he wanted to separate. According to his account, an emotional conversation followed. And in the early morning hours of August 13th, 2018, Shanann Watts was strangled in the bedroom of her own home. She was 15 weeks pregnant. Their two daughters were asleep nearby. Consider the weight of that for a moment. She had just come home from trip. She had traveled to reconnect with her husband just weeks earlier. She had spoken to friends about being afraid her marriage was in trouble. And still, she came home. She was trying. And the conversation that was supposed to be about saving a marriage ended in the bedroom of the house she had loved and decorated and filled with her daughter's laughter. What followed is almost incomprehensible in its calculated nature. Chris Watts loaded Shanann's body into the back of his truck. He put his two daughters, Bella and Celeste, in the back seat. It was the early hours of the morning. The neighborhood was dark and quiet. He drove to an Anadarko petroleum oil site in Weld County, a remote location where he worked as an operator and where he would have known the layout, the access roads, the schedules, the rhythms of who came and went and when. At that oil site, the girls were taken from this world by the hands of their own father. Their small bodies were placed inside crude oil storage tanks. Tanks with openings of only 8 inches in diameter. Celeste was 3 years old. Bella was 4. According to Watts's own confession, after Celeste was gone, Bella, his older daughter, his firstborn, looked at him and asked, quote, "What happened to Cece? Is the same thing going to happen to me as Cece?" He reportedly told investigators that Bella's last words to him were, quote, "Daddy, no." There are no words adequate to what those sentences contain. A 4-year-old, in the dark, at her father's hands, asking a question she should never have had reason to ask. And he answered it. Shanann was buried in a shallow grave nearby, in the same soil where she had once imagined a future that included school runs and birthday cakes, and watching Nico take his first steps. Then Chris Watts drove back to Saratoga Trail. He went about his morning. He showered. He prepared. He left for work around 5:15 to 5:30 a.m., as he would later state to television cameras. And when the cameras found him that afternoon, standing on his lawn, talking to reporters, asking for help finding his family, the oil on his hand from that sight had long since washed away. Pause on that for a moment. For people were gone. A mother, a son who never had the chance to take a breath, and 2 little girls who, by every account, loved their father deeply. And the man responsible was standing on a sunny Colorado afternoon, in front of his house, cooperating with the press, constructing a story. We are watching this knowing what he already knew. But here's what you need to understand about the hours between that morning and the moment he stood in front of those cameras. Chris Watts was not alone in his actions. He had a phone. He had people who called him. And one of those calls, captured in real time with police officers present on a body cam that was rolling, would become one of the most quietly unnerving moments in this entire case. We will get to that call. But first, let us watch how investigators began to close in. What you're about to hear is the moment this investigation officially began. It is a phone call made by a woman who was simply worried about her friend. A call placed in the early afternoon of August 13th, 2018. Listen to the tone of the voice. Listen to what concern sounds like when it is completely genuine, because it stands in stark contrast to what we heard from the one person who should have been the most worried of all.
Hi, Stacey. My name's Nichol, and I'm calling because I'm concerned about a friend of mine. I dropped her off at her house at 2 in the morning last night because we were out of town together, and we were on the way back from the airport, and she's having issues, and she's pregnant. And I haven't been able to get a hold of her this morning, and I've gone to her house, and her car's there, and stuff like that, but she won't answer the door, she won't answer phone calls, she won't answer text messages, and I'm just really, really concerned, and she had a doctor's appointment this morning, and she didn't go to it, and I don't know what to do. I've called him and talked to him, and he said that she went on a play date with her other 2 daughters, but, like, if she went on a play date, they're both in car seats. Why would she not take her car?
Perfectly understandable. Do you happen to know her address, Nicole?
I'm at the Shanann outside the house. It's 2825 Saratoga Trail in Frederick. And then I said, like, Chris, can you just come home and check to make sure she's okay? Because the shoes she wears every single day are right inside her door. And he was like, yeah, I'll be there in 3 minutes. Well, that was 45 minutes ago. And I called him and asked him again, can you please come home? And he's like, I'm 45 minutes out.
Okay. Nicole, I'll go ahead and call in. I just need you, if you could, please repeat her address to make sure I have it entered correctly.
2825 Saratoga. It's SARCOGATR.
Okay.
The thing stands for trail.
Thank you. And can I get a phone number that you're calling me from? Area code first.
970.
Thank you. Okay, Nicole, tell me exactly what happened.
So, we were out of town for work, and we flew in last night. Our flight got delayed, and I dropped her off at her house at 2 in the morning. She's 15 weeks pregnant, and she wasn't feeling well over the weekend, and she was very, like, distraught and out of the sorts because her and her husband are having issues. So, I was concerned because she wasn't, like, eating or drinking and stuff like that. So then this morning, I was like, let me know if you need me to take you to your doctor's appointment because you're not feeling well. And I have called and texted. I've come to her house. She's not answering the door. She's not responding to text messages, phone calls. I've had other friends reach out to her. None of us can get her to respond to us. I have 2 little girls that are 3 and 4. I mean, there's no movement in the house whatsoever. And he states that she didn't take them to daycare and was going to go on a play date, but they're both in car seats and her car is here.
What's her name?
It's in the garage. And I'm like, well, huh?
What's her name?
Shanann Watts. It's SHANANN Watts, WATTS.
Do you know her date of birth or how old she might be?
Oh, if you would have asked me that, I would know it.
That's okay. If you just know her approximate age,
He's in her 20s, early 30s.
Bear with me here one moment. When was the last time that you heard from her?
When I dropped her off at her house, I watched her, made sure she got in the house. That was at 2 a.m. It was actually 1:55. I literally lived like 5-10 minutes from her.
And her vehicle is it parked in the garage?
Yes. It's a white Lexus. And I called probably because I was concerned. I know I don't want to get a doctor's office in trouble, but I went to the doctor's office because I've been used them as doctors, and I said, I know you can't give me things because of HIPAA, but can you just tell me if she showed up at her appointment this morning? And the lady was like, no, she did not.
Okay. Is that's unusual behavior for her to not show up to her doctor's appointment?
No.
Okay.
No. Pregnancy, like, she was so excited and then got blindsided from her husband that he wanted to separate a week ago.
And her husband's name is Chris?
Yes, his name is Chris Watts.
And he told you that she went on a play date today with
The girls.
Okay.
Yeah, but the 4-year-old, and she told me last night when we were driving home, she's like, the morning's going to suck because I have to take the girls to daycare tomorrow. And I made the statement, well, you could keep them home with you. And she was like, no, that'd be more exhausting. She was like, I have to get up and take them because I have a doctor's appointment at 9.
Bear with me here one moment. I'm just typing this information in the call here.
And I'm not trying to cause problems more between them. I just want to know she's okay.
Okay. What's her phone number?
Give me 1 second and I'll look it up for you. It is 910-850-3286.
Okay. And Chris told you that he was on his way.
Yes, I just talked to him. Well, I talked to him here. One of our other friends did via text because I was going to the doctor's office, and she said he would be here in about 30 minutes, and that was at 1:08. And then I called him and said, Chris, I'm at your house. I'm not trying to cause drama or anything. I just need to know your life, okay? I was like, where are you? And he was like, I'm on I-70. I'm about a half hour to 45 minutes out. And I just said, okay, and then I hung up and called you guys because I'm just worried.
Okay, Nicole, what kind of vehicle are you in right now?
I'm in a white Dodge Dart.
Okay. Alrighty, we do have a call in. Nicole, we'll have an officer come out that way as soon as we can. I would just advise you, to not try to make entry into the house or anything like that until the officers can get there. In the meantime, if you do hear from her, just give us a call back and let us know, okay?
Okay.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
2825 Saratoga Trail of a party who's checking on a friend who's pregnant who's not answering the door.
By early afternoon on August 13th, Nichol Atkinson had been trying to reach Shanann for hours. They had worked together. They had traveled together. She knew Shanann's rhythms, her schedule, her habits better than most. Shanann had a prenatal doctor's appointment that morning. A visit she had been genuinely looking forward to. A chance to check on Nico, to hear his heartbeat, to get one step closer to the day she would hold her son. She had not shown up. She had not called. She had not texted. Nichol drove to the house. She knocked. She rang the doorbell. No answer. She called Shanann's phone and heard it ringing from inside the house. Shanann never left her phone. Nichol had a key. She let herself in. The house was still in a way that did not feel like an empty house. It felt like a house where something was wrong. Shanann's phone was on the kitchen counter. Her purse was inside. Her car was in the garage. The girls' medication, Bella and Celeste both had specific daily medical requirements, was untouched in the place it was always kept. Nothing was packed. Nothing was prepared. There was no note. There was no voicemail. There was simply nothing. Shanann Watts had not walked out of that house. Everything she would have needed, her phone, her keys, her purse, her daughter's medicine, was still inside it. A woman who was 15 weeks pregnant, who had a doctor's appointment that morning, who had friends expecting her in a business to run and a life fully in motion, had simply vanished. At 1:48 in the afternoon, Nichol Kessinger called 911. And in that call, you hear exactly what genuine alarm sounds like, the particular quality of distress that belongs to a person who knows something is wrong, but does not yet know how wrong. The Frederick Police Department responded. Officers arrived at 2825 Saratoga Trail. And what the next several hours would reveal, slowly, carefully, almost surgically, is a masterclass in how investigative instinct quietly goes to work before anyone says a single accusatory word. Officers requested the assistance of the FBI and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. A missing and in danger alert was issued for Shanann and the girls. The house became the center of something larger than any of them yet fully understood. What you're about to watch was captured on a police officer's body cam. It is one of the earliest recorded interactions between law enforcement and the people connected to this case. Pay attention not just to what is being said, but to the emotional atmosphere in that footage. Notice who is distressed. Notice who is not. Notice the quality of the silence around certain responses.
Hey, Ben.
Hi.
Here, Nicole?
Yes.
Okay, so what's going on?
So my friend, we were out of town for a business trip this weekend,
All right.
and I dropped her off at 2 o'clock this morning. She's 15 weeks pregnant. She wasn't feeling well, and she had a doctor's appointment this morning at 9, and I told her to let me know if she needed me to take her. She's got 2 little girls. Her husband and her supposedly are separating, but she didn't know this. She thought they were just having issues. I called him, and I was like, have you talked or heard from Shanann since you left for work this morning? Because I can't get a hold of her. I called, I texted. Her car's in the garage. Her shoes she wears every single day are by the front door.
She only has one vehicle?
No, they only have the one vehicle in his work truck.
Okay. Shanann, are you home? Police department, if anyone's inside, make yourself known. Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything out of place. I'm not hearing kids. I'm not hearing anything. Scott, how you doing?
How's it going?
So this is the only vehicle she would have?
Only one that,
She would drive? Okay.
What's interesting is the garage door opens, and instead of yelling out for Shanann, he stops and opens up their car and starts looking through the car.
This is a stalling tactic to kind of gather his thoughts up a little bit.
He then walks in the house and is never heard calling their names, as if he knows they're not home. He goes in the house, he's in there for about a minute by himself, nobody goes in with him.
Can we go in the house?
I mean, that's up to him. It's his house.
And that's when he comes around and politely lets in the police officer, Nichol Kessinger, and her son.
Mind if I come in, Chris? Okay.
They go upstairs, there's no sign of the girls there. They go in the basement, there's no sign of Shanann or the girls.
Her phone's here? Her phone's here.
Does she work?
yeah, she works from home.
Oh, from home?
She works this is her lifeline.
This could be the ticket to all the information, like she left the phone behind. But here's the other thing is that he didn't think that it was odd that the phone was left there.
You know her passcode?
I don't know her passcode.
It used to be 2385 and now it's 6 digits.
It's the baby's due date.
I don't believe Chris had planned to have the phone discovered. I think he planned to come back later and make some changes and do what he had to do to make it look as if Shanann was wandering around with her phone and doing other things.
He seems to be anxious. You can see this rocking movement in his body language.
But you told me that she went on a play date with the girls and then...
That's what she told me.
But instead of frantically calling around, asking for help, finding his wife, or if anyone's seen her, he's texting people.
He's trying to take attention off of himself, transferring his anxiety onto that phone. Nicole is like a hound dog. She knows something's up. She knows something's off. And she's looking over at Chris going, what the heck is wrong with you?
What time do you leave today?
What time I leave there?
Come there here.
Usually between 5:30 and 6.
Was Shanann here then?
Yes. Yeah, we about that.
At one point, the police officer is asking questions about where they might have been, and Chris conveniently walks straight into the bedroom and comes straight out, and on his finger is Shanann's wedding ring.
and he's pointing it out almost like he's pointing a gun. You know, here it is. I found the ring. This is the missing evidence.
I still to this day believe that was her wedding ring that he took out of the car.
What's that?
Nothing on there. You just have my camera.
Is this on continually
Yep.
recording?
I get cars driving from this street, and this is him at 517.
It shows Chris very clearly walking out of the house by himself, backing his truck up into the driveway, and then loading something into the back of his truck.
What Chris Watts does is very purposeful. He goes into the garage, he walks out, he's got a gas can. He goes to put it on one side of the truck, and then he thinks twice, goes, well, I can't really put it there. But you can see him kind of moving, like apparently there's not room for it there. That wasn't going to fit. Let's go around to the other side. Oh, okay, now it'll fit, obviously, between the 3 dead bodies.
We usually park out there on the side. I just want to get everything in. Be easier, so lugging everything out there, all the tools that I had to bring in.
Suddenly, this guy who had few words has a lot to say. He has an explanation for everything.
Then Chris started to fall apart a bit.
Chris Watts can barely watch it, right? So what happens when you arrest somebody? Get down on the ground. Put your hands on your head. So he puts his hands on his head even though he wasn't told. But that was a surrendering moment.
That's almost as if Chris was verbally saying, oh my gosh, I was not expecting this.
And you see him pacing and moving, nervous and anxious. Chris Watts' body language is betraying him.
So right now, police don't have probable cause to be able to arrest him because it still isn't clear where Shanann, Bella, and Cece went. They're never seen leaving the house.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
Hopefully something comes up here. I've never seen him. If he loads his stuff, he normally just walks back and forth because I get him on camera. But the fact that he was in here and explaining to it over and over and over,
Well,
he doesn't look worried. He looks like he's trying to cover his tracks.
When Chris Watts arrived back at the home after being contacted, what the cameras recorded was something that investigators noted immediately, though carefully and without jumping to conclusions. He was calm, not the kind of calm that comes from someone trying to hold themselves together, not the white-knuckled calm of a person in genuine shock. He was conversational, measured. He answered questions the way you might answer questions about a delayed package, with just enough detail to seem engaged, but without the emotional weight the situation demanded. His wife was missing. She was 15 weeks pregnant. His daughters, ages 4 and 3, were nowhere. And something about Chris Watts struck law enforcement as deeply inconsistent with what the moment called for. Compare that to Nichol Kessinger. Her urgency is immediate and uncontained. She's trying to make officers understand that something is profoundly wrong. She knows it. She feels it. It is pouring out of her in every sentence. This is what investigators call emotional contrast. And it is one of the first quiet signals in a case like this. Not courtroom evidence, not an arrest warrant, but a signal like a sound just below the range of comfortable hearing that the story being presented may not be the whole story. They took note. They kept watching. What you are about to see is a body cam recording from inside the Watts home during the active police search. Officers are moving through the house. Chris Watts is present. This footage is significant not because of any single dramatic moment, but because of how it accumulates. Watch how certain questions land. Watch how certain responses are constructed. Watch where the eyes go. Watch what happens in the spaces between sentences.
All right. We'll have you sign a consent form. We just want to see if you left a note or anything inconspicuous, something like that. All right. So if you're good with that, we'll have you sign a consent form allowing us to search your house, and We'll wait for our sergeant to get here. But we'll grab that. You don't plan on going anywhere, right?
No, I was just going to walk around the neighborhood just to clear my head.
Yeah. Which company do you work for? Anadarko. What do you do for them?
Operator.
So you work like 7 days a week?
5 and 2, like Monday through Friday. I'm doing 8 and 6 next month.
Okay. So today is Monday?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Let us grab that form, and then we'll wait for our supervisor, and then you can either stay here or you can go walk the neighborhood, whatever you'd like. But we look through it. All right. Let's go grab that form. We'll be right back with you. Okay?
You have to stay here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. You got one?
I think so. So Chris, it's your house. You can go inside with us if you'd like, or you could stay out here. It doesn't matter to us.
Doesn't matter. I mean, free reign, whatever you got to do.
Okay.
Like I can chill on the decks on the side of the sun, but
okay.
Cool.
All right. Whatever you'd like. How long have you guys been married?
So we've been together 8 years, married 6 this year.
Okay. And this is very unusual behavior?
Yeah, we can get that dog out of here.
Okay.
She's gonna flip.
On the counter right here.
Okay. So when you guys come home, do you usually use the front door or the garage door? How do you guys?
I usually open the garage door, come in.
Okay.
She uses front or garage. It just kind of depends.
Okay. Is that a ring out there?
Oh, that was.
No, the doorbell, is that a ring
Yeah,
doorbell?
like when you got a visitor, it does. But I don't think the speaker is on to where you hear it. Like by.
Okay. I guess my question for you is, would it show her leaving with the kids? Did you have any alerts?
If she came out here, yes. Like if.
Did you have any alerts today with that?
Just when her friends were here.
Does it only record when the doorbell rings, or anytime someone?
If you're like right here, it should just start. The proximity should hit up.
Okay. And if you had anything on that today?
Just her friends.
And what time was that?
12:10. And about 10 minutes afternoon.
Okay. But nothing between the time when she got here?
No, like she got here at 2. Only thing
this morning?
Yeah, 2 o'clock this morning.
Okay.
Like 1:48 on here. And the only thing that was weird was that the garage door said is left open after I left. And it might have been the sensor, but like my phone doesn't show when
for your alarm?
Yeah, it doesn't show if it shuts.
And who's your alarm through?
Vivian.
Okay.
But Nikki, her friend that came here about 12:10, she said the garage door was shut when she got here.
Okay.
That was the only thing that was weird.
All right. Were you going to hang out there, or you want to come in here?
I'll sit right here.
Okay. Where's the purse at?
On the counter.
I'm still recording, so.
Yep. This.
Whose phone is that?
I believe that is his. Bomb overtook hers. That's from vomiting.
Is that a diary or what is that?
It's for work, I believe. I was thinking it was possibly a diary, but it's talking about like motivation stuff.
How did you say the kids were?
Forest.
This is very neat for having 2 little kids.
The police searched the house at 2825 Saratoga Trail. As they moved through the rooms, through the girl's bedroom with its toys still laid out, through the master bedroom, through the kitchen where Shanann's phone sat on the counter, Chris Watts was present for much of it. In that footage, you can observe something investigators and behavioral analysts have spent considerable time discussing. The architecture of a story being built in real time. Not remembered, built. When people recall genuine experiences, even traumatic, confusing ones, there's a texture to the way the words come out. Details emerge unevenly. Emotions surface at unpredictable moments. The story meanders because memory is not linear. What was observed here is something different. Responses to certain questions carry a quality of construction, of careful word selection, of narrowed framing, of answers that technically respond without fully engaging. The emotional weight the situation demands is simply not there. He told officers he had woken up around 4 or 5, that he and Shanann had had an emotional conversation, that she had taken the girls and left. He said he did not know where they went. He said he had left for work between 5:15 and 5:30. But a neighbor's security camera had already recorded something else entirely. That footage would later show Watts, in the early morning hours of August 13th, loading a gasoline canister into the bed of his pickup truck, and then backing the vehicle fully into the garage. A behavior investigators found deeply inconsistent with a man whose family had simply walked out the front door. The cameras were watching. They always had been. Chris Watts just did not know how much. This next clip is one of the most quietly revealing moments in the entire case. Police are actively searching the property. Officers are present. And in the middle of all of it, Chris Watts receives a phone call. Watch the shift. Watch how he handles it. Watch who is on the other end of that call, and consider what it means in the context of everything happening around him in that moment.
There's a driveway from the townhomes that backs right up to our fence.
Now, would you think that's a female friend or a male friend?
Honestly, I'm not going to put anything by it right now.
All right. Well, we appreciate you letting us go through your house.
No problem. I'm
definitely not in there.
No. Hey, hold on one second. Call you back. Bye.
Was it in the car? So she came out the door then?
Yeah. Chris said things, you know. What's your name again?
I'm Sergeant Bakes.
Sergeant Bakes. Nice to meet you.
So she doesn't have any family or anyone around here?
Neither of us do. They're all back in North Carolina. We moved here back in 2012. Came out here to visit some friends during Thanksgiving, fell in love with the place, moved out here a few months later.
She have any friends around here?
Just for friends?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got friends in Frederick, Erie, Aurora, that part of Erie, Broomfield, Parker.
Have you tried to contact any of them?
Oh yeah, we've exhausted every option. The last thing I'm going to do is hospitals. Hotels. There's so many, but...
And no one's heard from her today? Have you checked your bank accounts?
That's another thing I was going to do, because I don't have access through here.
Let's go check those and see if she pulled any cash out, or if there's any strange charges or anything.
Okay.
Can you log?
I can't log in because she does all the finances.
Okay.
So I know her password. I just don't have her used already. Not sure what she would have used that way. Sorry, my phone's just blowing up right now.
No, you're fine. Who do you guys bank through?
USAA and Chase.
Can you call them and see if there's been any activity? Any withdrawals or anything? And then the suitcases that she came home this morning with, which ones were those? Was it
The black one that's sitting right there.
Not the one in the bedroom?
That was from the last trip, or when we just got back a few days ago from North Carolina. She went to Arizona like 2 days later. That was when we just got put back down in the basement.
You guys don't have any stockpiles of cash or anything in the house that she would have had? If she needed cash, she needed to go to the bank to get it?
If there is, I would not know about it. If there was, I didn't know.
You know how much cash she usually carries with her?
It's usually not, maybe like 100.
Your turn signal's on.
It's been on. I may have to turn in a hurry.
Let's sit with that for a moment. His wife had been reported missing. His daughters had been reported missing. Officers were actively searching his home. The investigation was in full motion. And Chris Watts received a call from Nichol Kessinger, the woman he had been in a relationship with, the woman who did not know the full scope of the life she had been brought into. She did not know yet. The news had not fully broken. She was calling the man she believed was moving toward a new chapter. He was answering in the presence of officers investigating the disappearance of the family he had told her was already in the past. Two worlds, colliding quietly in real time. Kessinger would later contact police herself. She would cooperate fully with investigators. She said something had fell off in the days leading up to the news breaking. Though when she confronted Chris about why his family was suddenly missing, his reaction barely registered on any emotional scale. She said, in her own words, that if he was able to lie to her and hide something that big, she had to wonder what else he had been lying about. And this leads directly to what happened next, because while the house was being searched and the calls were being made, Chris Watts was still trying to hold the story together. He had given interviews to local television stations. He had asked publicly for his family to come home. He had stood in front of cameras and said the words a grieving husband and father was supposed to say. But investigators were already building something he could not see. The polygraph was scheduled. And what happened when Chris Watts sat down in that room would be the moment the first wall finally came down. This is Bodycam footage captured in the period just before Chris Watts' arrest. By this point, investigators have been accumulating information for 2 days. The energy in these recordings has shifted. Listen to how the questions are framed now. Listen to how the responses compare to what we know was already sitting inside police case files. This is what the beginning of a collapsing narrative looks like.
We'll be in the area.
Okay. So Chris, I might need your help a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
Where is, I'm assuming your wife Sherry's in bed with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's take a look in there and then talk to your kids. Does she have any dirty laundry that hasn't been touched by anybody else besides her? Okay. Is any of your laundry in there with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, I just think it's a family. It's gonna happen. How about your kids' room?
So their laundry would be in the...
And has any of it been touched by you today?
I'll put it in there.
You put it in there?
Yeah.
How about dirty laundry?
This is the dirty laundry here.
Okay. You usually pick it up off the floor and put it in there?
Yep.
Beds? Have you touched their beds today?
I made them.
You made them. Okay. Do you like pick up the pillow, that kind of stuff, or you just like? Okay. Let me think here.
Sure. Let me see if there's anything that...
Anything about
nothing I've ever touched at all.
How about actually shoes would be good too? Shoes that maybe you haven't touched since they've worn them? Is there cleaning?
Yeah, I mean, but sometimes the blankies get put in there.
Okay.
But that's the one she usually uses, the butterfly one.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've touched it today?
Yesterday when I put it on the bed.
Okay. Shoes?
Shoes are downstairs.
Okay. And then probably your wife's shoes too.
Okay. Cece's shoes and Bella's shoes on this side.
Okay. What's the most recent picture you remember her wearing?
Probably outside because they were wet from a pool party.
Okay.
Does that still work?
What day was that?
That was on Saturday.
Okay.
Those are two right there.
Call, one's going to be from KOA,
Another one is going to
be
yeah.
CIO request, and it's going to be the Denver
And I think they got wet, right? They were in there.
On August 15th, 2018, 2 days after Shanann was reported missing, Chris Watts went to the Frederick Police Department to take a polygraph examination. He failed it. Following the polygraph results, investigators sat down with him for a direct conversation. And in that conversation, Chris Watts attempted to control the narrative one final time. He told investigators that he had woken up that morning to find Shanann in the act of harming their daughters. He claimed that he had witnessed this on a baby monitor. He claimed he had confronted her. He claimed that in a sudden, overwhelming moment of emotion, he had acted. He was constructing a story in which he was not the perpetrator, but the one who had responded to one. Investigators did not accept this account. The evidence, the neighbor's security footage, the phone data, the physical evidence at the oil site, the movements tracked by his own devices, told a different story entirely. The polygraph results confirmed what investigators had been quietly building toward since the afternoon of August 13th. Later that same day, August 15th, 2018, Chris Watts was arrested and taken into custody. He was denied bail at his first court appearance. Anadarko Petroleum terminated his employment the same day. The bodies of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste were recovered from the oil site in Weld County on August 16th, 2018. Investigators found Shanann and her unborn son Nico in a shallow grave near the oil tanks. Bella and Celeste were found inside those tanks, submerged in crude oil, in spaces with openings of just 8 inches across. The girls' medication was still back at the house. Their small shoes were by the door. But Chris Watts was not done changing his story. What he would say in the interrogation room, the account he would give to investigators the day after his arrest, was not the truth either. The complete truth in all of its devastating detail, would not come until months later. And when it finally did, it would be worse than almost anyone had allowed themselves to imagine. What follows is footage from Chris Watts' formal police interrogation. This is considered one of the most closely studied interrogation recordings in modern true crime history. Investigators, behavioral analysts, and former law enforcement officers have spent years examining the language, the body movements, the emotional register. As you watch, pay attention not just to the words, but to what is not said, to where the emotion appears, and where it conspicuously does not, to what a person looks like when they are not yet telling the full truth.
I brought Graham in here because we want to talk to you about the results, okay? So, it was completely clear that you were not on during the testing, and I think you already know that. You did not pass the polygraph test. Okay. So now we need to talk about what actually happened. I feel like you're probably ready to do that.
I didn't lie to you on that polygraph, I promise. Chris, I never stopped.
Take a deep breath. I want you to take a deep breath right now.
There's a reason you feel sick to your stomach. And when people hold stuff inside, it makes you physically ill. And I can just tell on your face, I could tell from the second you walked in that you were wanting to just come clean and just be done with this. And I appreciate that because you knew sitting down in that chair that you weren't going to pass today, and you knew I was going to find out because I told you that. And then you continued to say, knowing that you could, at the end, say, you know what, I just need to get this off my chest. Like, I just need to tell you what happened. We're not here to play games. We're not here to do any of that with you. We just want to know what happened. So can you start from the beginning and tell us what happened?
Everything that I have told you, I did not lie on this polygraph. I don't know how much I could tell you right now. Like, I did not.
It's not an option right now because you did not pass the polygraph. I know you were being deceptive, so that's not even an issue right now. The issue right now is what happened to Shanann, Stella, and Celeste. That's the issue right now.
Good.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I know you want to tell us. I can see it in your face. Holding this lie in is going to do nothing for you.
I know this. Like, okay. I'm not like trying to like cover things up. Like,
yeah, but you kind of are because it's normal. Normal people will do that. Normal people that make a mistake initially are going to go, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do anything. That's normal. I would expect that. It's just like if you ask your kid, did you write on the wall? And they go, no. And you're like, you have marker on your hand. Like, I know you just wrote on the wall. And they're like, oh, okay. That's a natural reaction that someone's going to initially lie about something like that and then eventually tell the truth. So this is your eventually telling the truth time. This is where the rubber meets the road, Chris. Like, don't let this continue any longer, please.
I'm not trying to make anything continue. Like, I want them back home, like.
But you know they're not coming back home. You know they're not.
I don't know them back in my head. I hope they come back home.
But you know they're not.
I hope they come back home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know they're not coming back home. Chris, tell me I'm confused. Okay. And here's what confused about me. I told you that we've done some work overnight. I told you that we booked out a lot of things. Okay, that wasn't a lie. We don't love a lot more than we think we do. Okay. And here's what we're confused. You're this great guy. I'm not just telling you that, okay? I'm telling you that because everyone tells us that. Okay? We can't find anyone to say anything bad about you. Chris is a great guy. He's a good father. He's a good man. We're confused as to why you're not taking care of your beautiful children. I'm not taking care of them right now. Okay, I don't know where they're at. I do not know where they're at. I could have my babies back home right now, I would. I want them back. I want everybody back. That is the God's honest truth.
Figure out why there's two Chris's. Okay. We talked about that last night.
Yes.
We just can't figure it out. There's a Chris. Okay. If somebody asks me, like, routine, I'll say, that's the truth. So, it is very surprising to me, and it warms my heart that you're the type of dad who can pack a bag in the morning. You know just what to put in there. You know just what to put in there as a backup in case they have an accident. Okay? You know what the clothes to put in there. You know what they have for breakfast. You know what they have for a snack and a dinner and a nighttime snack. You can tell me the book you read to your daughters. Okay? I really love them. And you're not faking that, are you? That's real. Okay? There's a lot of guys that come in here and try to tell you that. And I know they're lying. Okay? Because they can't answer those questions that you can answer. But you weren't here today lying about something else. We need to talk about that, okay? That's his daughter. I know. And she's very good.
Yeah, I'm not proud of it. I didn't think anything like that could happen. I don't think I would ever do it, but I did. He accused me of it. I denied it. I she was hard, and I felt horrible for it. Like, she was pregnant, and it was, I don't want to, it didn't hurt her. I cheated on her, I hurt her emotionally. I cheated on her. And I feel absolutely horrible about this, but that's what I've been holding back. When I was letting go about the game, I was with her. I was in that with her. Keep going. That 5 weeks I was alone, I was with her most of the time.
You're doing a good job. This is the Chris that I knew would come out today. This is the Chris who tells the truth because you're a truth teller.
In that room, under the sustained and careful pressure of trained investigators, Chris Watts eventually acknowledged his role in the deaths of Shanann and his daughters. His initial confession still contained elements that investigators knew were inaccurate, specifically the claim that Shanann had been the one to harm the girls before he reacted. The story he told was still a modified version of events, a version in which he remained, in some constructed sense, the lesser villain. Investigators did not accept this framing. The evidence did not support it. And the version of events Chris Watts eventually told in full, months later, in a follow-up prison interview, would lay bare exactly how deliberate the events of August 13th truly were. The investigation continued. Prosecutors built their case methodically. The discovery file, the prosecution's evidence, ran to nearly 2,000 pages when released publicly. It contained surveillance photographs, search warrants, FBI interview transcripts, text messages, call logs, and records of communications between Chris and Nichol Kessinger. It told the story of 2 months of deception in granular, documented detail. And on November 6, 2018, in a Weld County courtroom, Christopher Lee Watts appeared before the court and entered guilty pleas to multiple counts. He pleaded guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 for Shanann, 1 for Bella, 1 for Celeste. He pleaded guilty to the unlawful termination of a pregnancy, the loss of his unborn son Nico. He pleaded guilty to 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body. 9 charges total. Shanann's family had made a choice that many found both painful and deeply meaningful. They requested that the prosecution not seek the death penalty. They did not want another life taken, even the life of the man who had taken everything from them. Frank Rusek, Shanann's father, stood before the court and a priest read his words aloud, describing his daughter as pure love, as his little girl, as someone who was always caring for everyone around her. Then came the sentencing. Before the sentencing, there is one more piece of this story that the cameras captured. Nichol Kessinger gave an interview to law enforcement in which she addressed one of the most discussed questions surrounding her role in this case, whether she knew that Shanann was pregnant. This is that footage. Consider it carefully. Consider what it would mean if it is true. And consider what it means for the story Chris Watts told her about the life he claimed he was already leaving behind.
We introduced ourselves in the lobbies and earlier, so we're just going to do that again real quick. My name's Kevin Kovac. I'm with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and we're assisting the Frederick Police Department with this case involving Chris Watts. And this is Tim Martinez, also an agent at CBI. Sir, if you just introduce yourself.
Dwayne Kessinger. I'm Nicole's father.
Dwayne, what's your birthday?
November 3rd, 1958.
And home address for you, sir?
8801 West 65th Avenue.
What city?
And that's Arvada, 8004.
And a cell phone or home phone or where?
720-982-4547.
Thank you. And Nicole, can you just introduce yourself for the recording?
Nichol Kessinger. Do you need all the other stuff?
Yes, please.
I live at 12255 Claude Court, Unit 612, phone number 720-656-9605.
Claude Court, is that? I think we determined it was North Glen, right?
Yes.
You know your zip code?
80249.
Okay. Can you speak up just a little bit so the recorder, I know you're tired and you're stressed, and we won't be here any longer than we have to be. You've already had a conversation with people before. You came here on your own free will to talk to us. We picked you up at your request and brought you here. You can get up and leave at any time. You don't have to talk to us. If there's a question you don't want to answer, don't answer it. If you don't want to talk anymore, just tell me I want to leave. And I'm kind of in the way of the door, but you're not being interrogated as a criminal suspect. We're here to understand your relationship with Chris and what you know about Chris and his family and events relating to Chris Watts. And do you know him as Chris or Christopher?
Either one.
Okay. So the phone number that you reached him on, can you tell me what that number was?
I think I deleted that out of my phone too. I just cut him out of my life. It's a 910 number. You guys have it.
Well, we gave it to Mark yesterday.
Yeah, I probably have it, but just in case.
I don't have it.
If I recited it to you, would you know it?
Just the first three numbers.
But you know it as a 910 number?
Yes, that's what I do know. I mean, that's what I got.
North Carolina or something.
North Carolina. Okay. So let's just start with a timeline of your getting to know Chris, how you guys met, where you met, all those things. And let's just run. And I'm not going to ask you specific questions unless I think it's necessary. I'll let you just tell me your story. I think it's a little bit easier that way. So I just want to know how you met him, where you met him, how long you guys were dating, and those kind of things initially.
Okay. I think I met him sometime in June, probably early June. It might have been May. It was just talking at work. It was pretty casual. And he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. I was like, that's pretty cool. And started telling me about his kids.
That sounded like a sarcastic comment.
No, I thought it was kind of cute. I was like, oh, he's a dad. It was right around Father's Day too. So whenever that is in June.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm not good with holidays.
This footage has been one of the most analyzed pieces of the entire case. Kessinger maintained consistently and under formal questioning that she had not known Shanann was pregnant. She said Chris Watts had never told her. She said that she had believed based on everything he had told her, that the separation was already in progress. In a later media interview, Kessinger described what it felt like when the news broke. She said that when she saw the reports, when she understood what had actually happened, she had gone to law enforcement. She had voluntarily given investigators access to her phone, her accounts, her communications. She described Watts's emotional detachment when she confronted him about the disappearances as something that immediately told her something was profoundly wrong. She has not been charged with any crime. Investigators concluded that she was not involved in the events of August 13th. But this footage and the question it raises get to something deeply uncomfortable about this case. If Kessinger is telling the truth, then Shanann spent the last weeks of her pregnancy unknowingly sharing her husband with a woman he had convinced he was already free. Shanann was trying to save her marriage in a couple's retreat, posting videos about her excitement for Nico's arrival and loving her daughters, while the man in those videos was constructing a parallel existence built entirely on deception. We are watching this knowing what none of them knew. On November 19th, 2018, Christopher Lee Watts stood in a Weld County courtroom and was sentenced. 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole, 3 to be served consecutively, 2 concurrently. An additional 48 years for the unlawful termination of a pregnancy. An additional 36 years for 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body. He will never leave prison. What you are about to hear are the words of the prosecutor at Christopher Watts' sentencing. A statement made on behalf of a case that had gripped an entire nation. These words represent the formal conclusion of the legal process. But listen to them not as legal language. Listen to them as a final accounting of what was taken from the world on August 13th, 2018.
You would like to make on behalf of the prosecution? Yes, please.
Your Honor, there are no words to adequately describe the unimaginable tragedy that brings us before this court today. By my comments, I'm not even going to try to express the horror, the pain, or the suffering that the defendant has caused to these families, to this community, and to all who were a part of this investigation. However, I do want to spend a few minutes sharing with the court the details of the crime, as so far you've only had an opportunity to review the affidavit and a few facts here and there that have been offered to the court in the motions and pleadings that have been filed. The questions that have screamed out to anyone who will listen since August 13th of 2018 are why and how? Why did this have to happen? How could a seemingly normal husband and father annihilate his entire family? For what? These are the questions that only one individual in this courtroom or on this planet knows the answers to. I fully expect we will not receive the answers to these questions today, nor will we at any point in the future. I don't expect that he will ever tell the truth about what truly happened or why. Even if he did, there is no rational way that any human being could find those answers acceptable responses to such horrific questions. The best we can do is try to piece together some kind of understanding from the evidence that is available to us. And the evidence tells us this. The defendant coldly and deliberately ended 4 lives. Not in a fit of rage, not by way of accident, but in a calculated and sickening manner. Shanann was 34 years old. She had married the defendant in November of 2012. Over the weekend leading up to August 13th, she had been at a work conference in Phoenix, Arizona, and returned home in the early morning hours of August 13th. We know that she got home about 1:45 in the morning. The doorbell camera on their home shows her arriving back home from the airport. Shortly thereafter, at least according to the defendant, they had what he referred to as an emotional conversation about the state of their marriage and about what their lives would look like going forward. What was said during that emotional conversation, only he knows. What we do know is that shortly after that, the defendant strangled her to death with his own hands. We know that he slowly took her life the morning of August 13th. We know that this was not done in an uncontrolled, vengeful manner that he tried to describe to agents from CBI and the FBI. If that were the case, you would expect to see vicious, horrible bruising about her neck, shoulders, and face. You would expect to see the highway bone in her neck broken. You would expect to see some kind of defensive wounds on his body as she struggled and fought for her own life. None of those are present. The only injuries that were on Shanann's body were one set of finger or bruising, what appeared to be fingernail or finger mark bruising to the right side of her neck. We know that our experts will tell us that it takes 2 to 4 minutes to strangle someone to death manually with their own hands. The horror that she felt as the man that she loved wrapped his hands around her throat and choked the life out of her must have been unimaginable. Even worse, what must Bella, age 4, and Celeste, age 3, must have experienced or thought as their father, the one man on this planet who was supposed to nurture and protect them, was snuffing out their lives. They both died from smothering. Let me say that again. The man seated to my right smothered his daughters. Why? Imagine the horror in Bella's mind as her father took her last breaths away. Your Honor, understand very clearly, Bella fought back for her life. The frenulum, the connective tissue between her upper lip and her gum, had a centimeter and a half laceration. She bit her tongue multiple times before she died. She fought back for her life as her father smothered her. Celeste had no such injuries. In fact, she had no external injuries at all. But according to the medical examiner, she was smothered nonetheless. The defendant then methodically and calmly loaded their bodies into his work truck, not in a hasty or disorganized way. He was seen from the neighbor's doorbell camera backing his truck into the driveway, going back and forth into the house and back out to the truck 3 different times, 1 time for each of their bodies. He then drove them away from their family home 1 final time, intent on hiding any evidence of the crimes that he had just committed. In 1 final sign of callousness for his wife, his daughters, and their unborn son, and their remains, he drove them to a location that he thought no one would ever find them, to one of the oil tank batteries with which he was so familiar. He knew this was safe. He had texted a coworker the night before saying, "I'll head out to that site. I'll take care of it." He had carefully ensured that he would be alone in the middle of the plains to secrete away the remains of his family in a place that he hoped they would never be found. In 1 final measure of disrespect for the family he once had, he ensured that they would not be together, even in death, or so he thought. He disposed of them in different locations. He buried Shanann and Nico in a shallow grave away from the oil tanks. Bella and Celeste were thrown away in the oil tanks at this facility. Different tanks, so these little girls wouldn't be together in death. Imagine this, Your Honor. This defendant took those little girls and put them through a hatch at the top of an oil tank, 8 inches in diameter. Bella had scratches on her left buttocks from being shoved through this hole. A tuft of blonde hair was found on the edge of one of these hatches. The defendant told investigators that Bella's tank seemed emptier than CC's because of the sound that the splashes made. These were his daughters. Significantly, when his co-workers arrived at the tank battery later that morning, to a person, they all described him as acting completely normally. It was a normal workday, even while his daughters sank in the oil and water not far away from him. And then his efforts at deception truly began. We've all seen the emotionless interviews that the defendant gives to the local media asking for help in locating his family. We watched as he claimed that the house was empty without them, and that he hoped that they were somewhere safe, and that he just wanted them to come home. He told investigators that they were at home sleeping when he left for work that morning, and that Shanann had told him that she was taking the girls to a friend's house for the day. What is striking about this case, Your Honor, beyond the horrors that I've already described to you, is the number of collateral victims that he created by his actions. While he stood in front of TV cameras asking for the safe return of his family, scores of law enforcement officers, neighbors, friends and family scoured the area, fretted for their safe return. They texted him begging for any information and sending him their best wishes, all the while he hid what he had done. The list of indirect victims does not end there. Think of the firefighters and the Colorado State Patrol hazmat experts who had to don protective suits and who were called upon to pull Bella and Celeste out of those oil tanks. Or the coroner employees who had to conduct these autopsies.
At that sentencing, Shanann's family stood before the court and spoke. They described Shanann not as a case file or a headline, but as a daughter, a sister, a mother, a woman who loved being alive and loved the people around her. They described Bella's laugh. They described Cessay's personality. They described the son, named Nico, who never had the chance to meet them. The court also heard from members of Chris Watts' own family. His father, Ronnie Watts, visibly devastated, addressed his son and said words that have stayed with many people who followed this case. Quote, "I hope one day, Christopher, you can help us, because none of us understand." Watts himself, in the moments before sentencing, showed very little outward emotion. He did not offer a detailed public explanation. He did not give the courtroom the why that everyone in that room, and the millions watching, have been waiting for. The why remains, to this day, the most discussed unanswered question in this case. In December 2018, Chris Watts was transferred out of Colorado for safety reasons. He arrived on December 5th at Dodge Correctional Institution, a maximum security facility in Waupun, Wisconsin, where he remains today, serving 5 consecutive and concurrent life sentences. He is isolated in the way that only the most infamous inmates become isolated, not just physically, but socially. His crimes place him in a category that, even within a maximum security population, carries a particular weight. By accounts from those familiar with the facility, he is regarded as among the worst of the worst, even in a place where very bad people are the norm. He has received 2 conduct reports while incarcerated, one in 2020 for unauthorized communication and transfer of property, and one in 2021 for disobeying orders and possession of contraband. He spends much of his time in prayer and reading the Bible. The only people he sees regularly are a priest and, on occasion, his mother. On February 18th, 2019, months after his guilty plea, investigators conducted a follow-up interview with Watts in which he confessed fully to the deaths of his daughters for the first time. He described the drive to the oil site, what happened to Celeste, Bella's questions, her final words. He said being a father was the best part of his life. And then, quote, "I took it all away." Even in prison, the story Watts tells about himself has continued to evolve. In April 2024, the New York Post reported on handwritten notes allegedly written by Watts in which he described Shanann critically and spoke about Kessinger in glowing terms, suggesting a man who had still not fully reckoned with the truth of what he had done. The full explanation for why, the true internal motive, has never been satisfactorily given. Weld County District Attorney Michael Rourke said after sentencing that the team still did not fully understand Watts' motive. Watts' own father echoed that in open court, quote, "I hope one day, Christopher, you can help us understand." In October 2024, the house at 2825 Saratoga Trail was finally sold. Listed at $775,000, it closed at $650,000 on October 17th, 2024. The new owners now live where the cameras once rolled, where neighbors stood with flowers and candles, where a man looked into a lens and asked the world for help, knowing all along that the world could not help, because the answer was already buried in a Weld County oil field. But here is the question this case plants quietly in the mind of everyone who studies it. And I want to leave you with it because it is not a comfortable one. Everything that happened on August 13th, 2018, was preceded by weeks of ordinary moments. A couple's retreat, birthday party preparations, social media posts, a pregnancy announcement, a man playing with his children in the backyard. None of the people closest to Chris Watts saw what was coming. And that is not a criticism of them. It is simply the truth. And it raises a question this case forces every single person to quietly ask themselves. How well do we actually know the people we share our lives with? Not the version they present to us, not the version they believe in themselves, but the full, unedited truth of who a person actually is. The cameras in this story never blinked, but they only captured what happened in the open. What happened in private, in the quiet, in the space between the last family photo and the morning of August 13th. That is the territory no camera has ever fully illuminated. And that is what makes this case not just a true crime story. It is a story about what lives behind the face of the ordinary. Shanann Watts was 34 years old. She was 15 weeks pregnant with a son she had named Nico. She was the mother of Bella and Celeste, a daughter to Frank and Sandra Rizusek, a sister, a friend who made people feel seen and loved. She had been diagnosed with lupus and fought through it. She had built a business and a home full of the love she wanted her daughters to grow up knowing was possible. She wanted her marriage to work. She came home and fought for it. She deserved better than what she got. Bella Marie Watts was 4 years old. She was smart and curious and loved her little sister fiercely. She trusted that the adults in her world would always keep her safe. Celeste Watts was 3 years old. Cece, full of personality and life and all the particular magic that 3-year-olds carry everywhere they go. Nichol Watts never took his first breath. Never got to meet his mother, his sisters, the family already waiting to love him. They are buried together in North Carolina, where Shanann grew up, where her parents still carry her memory, where her name is spoken with love instead of loss. Shanann's parents have continued to honor her memory and the memory of their granddaughters, and to advocate for awareness around domestic violence and the vulnerability of pregnant women in dangerous situations. If you made it to the end of this video, you already understand why cases like this one matter. Not as entertainment, not a spectacle, but as a reminder that the stories we tell about ourselves and the stories that are actually true are not always the same thing. And that the search for truth, even when it forces us to sit with something uncomfortable, is always worth it. This is Dark Trail Files. We follow every trail until there are no more questions left. If this video moved you, if it challenged you, if it made you think, subscribe to this channel. Share this video. Leave a comment below. Because the community we are building here is not just about true crime. It is about understanding. And understanding, in cases like this one, is the closest thing to justice that the living can offer to those who are no longer here to speak for themselves. Dark Trail Files. Every trail leads somewhere. We follow them all.